Hi everyone, Valerie O'Neill from Ask Valerie here. I'm here with a group of colleagues, Moana Robinson from Be Styled for Life and Barb Clifford from The Timetable. Our expert that we're talking to now is Janine Vosper. Janine has a very strong background in sales, and what she doesn't know about sales doesn't exist. So Janine, it's lovely to be talking with you. And you're going to be talking about the different learning styles that people use and how we need to know about them to improve our sales.
Thank you, Valerie. Yes, I am. And particularly now that we're online doing everything. And look, it's always been important to understand how people want to receive information. But because we're doing things online now, if we're doing a lot of visual and close-up visual, then that is great for about 50% of the population because we're all fairly visual ourselves, and it works, and we get to see we can actually look right into people's eyes and get to know them a little bit better. But if you are quite auditory, then you may need to actually turn off the cameras to hear. Now, I know with the screens that we've got up here, Valerie's, you've got the beautiful beach behind you and the wind blowing through the trees with that scene. But if you're an auditory person, that just might be, you just want to listen to things. So you don't want to be distracted with anything else. So you may have to hope that everyone turns off their pictures and just listen to what they're saying. Or if you're a kinesthetic person, you may just want to get a feel for the energy in the room. Again, you may just want to have everyone not with their pictures, but to get that feeling of and to feel off how they're saying the things. But a lot of people all get stuck into what I call the auditory digital, which is how to do things. I want to understand how to do things. And if it depends on your learning style as to how comfortable you are delivering information. If you're visual, there's a very good chance you'll be delivering in a visual format. You'll be quite comfortable with this. But if you're auditory digital, you just want to explain things. So you just might be the person that writes the blog that goes 3 pages because you need to get a step by step by step understanding yourself, and you think that's how other people learn. But if you sent that to me, I would just glance at the first sentence and then I would just delete it or close it down. It is so important to know what the audience wants and how to deliver it. But probably the question that people will then ask me, well, how do I know? How do I know what most people want? And you don't. As I said, 50% of the people are quite visual, so you're pretty lucky with that. But you need to deliver the information in a way that everyone's going to be able to recognize and learn the style. So you need to be able to have some visual, to have some conversation and some auditory as well, to use the words that connect using feeling words or understanding words. And what I mean is, so a visual person would say, can you see what I'm talking about? Now, an auditory person would go, huh? How can you see what you're talking about? I know I need my glasses to see things in the distance. And if somebody's talking to me from a distance and I don't have my glasses on, I can't hear them. Because I'm visual, I need to be able to see them as well. And so if I said, again, like I said, if I said, I can see what you're saying, then a visual person, an auditory person will go, no, I can't. But I have used one of the words that an auditory person is going to pick up on, and that's the word saying. So I've used a visual terminology and an auditory terminology in the same sentence. But then I've missed out the kinesthetic person who wants to get the feeling for what I've just said. So if I said, I can see what you're saying and I get a feeling, that will be for me. So you're just even saying the word feeling or using an emotional word means that the kinesthetic person has gone, okay, I can now pay attention to that sentence because I'm included in that conversation. But then we've got our auditory digital who wants to understand. So if I said, I can see what you're saying and I get a feeling for it, but I really now understand what you mean. I've covered everybody in that conversation. So I haven't left anyone out. Everyone has a different, who has a different learning style has gone, oh, all right, and they'll pay attention to you. But sometimes you feel that you're talking and nobody's listening, and it just maybe you're working in your style, that you might be using all feeling words. And particularly a lot of people I work with that are yoga teachers or some sort of massage therapists, they've usually got into that industry because of the touchy-feely part of that. And they'll be talking in that language, but if they're talking to people, bookkeepers or engineers or accountants, lawyers who want to understand the steps all the way down, then they actually miss conversations nearly completely because they just start speaking the same language. And making sure that when you're online and you're having conversations with people, that you're thinking about how other people are receiving your information.
Janine, you made the point when we were talking before about mirroring back what people are saying to you. So if they're talking about feelings, then you use that in your language. So I guess you were saying as well, when we're doing that one-on-one, particularly in a sales process, if it is one-on-one, to listen to those signifiers that are going to tell us what their learning style is so that we can adapt to them so that we can really connect on a different level. Is that what you...
Absolutely. And I remember, working with my reps. I used to have a team of 20 reps that were all on commission only, and they all were incredibly successful because they learned a whole lot of skills. And one of the things I used to work with them was particularly that. And you can actually do it in the written email as well. You nearly repeat back nearly exactly what the person says, because you want the prospect or the client to know that you understand what they're saying. So if they've said, look, this is a real struggle for me and I don't know what I'm doing next, and if you wrote back, I can understand when you get to this situation, it can be a bit of a struggle and you may not be sure what to do next. And all of a sudden you've spoken their exact language and they get it.
That's a really good point about the written, mirroring back the written language. And I can remember talking to a media advisor about responding to SourceBottle, and she said, mirror back exactly what they've actually said in their statement, because you're appealing to what they've just said. You mirror back that language. I've never thought about it in a written context, but it makes perfect sense.
And it is. It's again, it's that people go, oh, she understands what I'm talking about, and you get on the same page. But again, and mirroring back in a conversation, when I was talking about the reps, we'd have a really new catalog. It took me years to develop this new catalog and all the beautiful pictures. It was this thick, and it was all different first aid safety products. And so my reps were very excited about it, and they would show it to people. And I'd seen them show it to people, and some people would just push it away. And they go, well, tell me about what I need. And they go, oh my gosh, have a look. It's on page. And they'd be going back to the catalog to show them the page, and the person would be pushing it away. And they again would be tell me what's going to work best for me. And that's the sort of thing we really need to be aware of, because obviously that person was not visual. They're very auditory, and usually auditory and auditory digital often go together. And they just wanted to have things explained to them and explained so they understood it. And so they're the people also that want lots of steps and lots of information, and they might be the ones that will take longer to make a decision. Whereas somebody says, yep, that looks good to me. As soon as they say it looks good, then you know that they're a visual person, and they're happy to make a decision on that as well. And those cues, when all of these statements, when they have about closing a sale, unless you've got the right language, you're just going to miss the mark totally as well.
So Janine, if you're not sure of what somebody's style is, could you ask a question like something like, would you like me to show you, or would you like me to tell you? Could you ask that question, or is that not appropriate?
No, you absolutely could, Barbara. And that's a really good way to at least find out. I mean, if you're used to listening to their language, then you'll hear the words in their language. And if you're used to seeing it, visual people will tend to speak a bit quicker, and they might breathe from the top of their lungs, whereas kinesthetic will often speak slower. They will be breathing more from the lower part of their lungs. And there's also cues you can get from where people look to get information, and if they may look one way up the top to go to think about an idea, then that could be visual, because they're trying to create an image in their mind, and they might be trying to pull it from memory, or they might be trying to pull it from creativity. But if they look up, they tend to be visual as well. If they're looking more sideways for the same thing, they're looking, oh, okay, let me think about that again. They're pulling from memory, or they're being creative. And digital and kinesthetic tend to be looking down at the ground.
They're probably thinking about how they did it with their hands, aren't they? Looking down, trying to relive the doing part of whatever it is.
Yeah. So we're not going to get that on screen as much as we have. Although, I mean, I obviously speak quickly, so that's a way to identify that possibly with me. You can tell by how people look as well. Is the way they look important? And I know that with Moana, with the styling, you know, Moana's a very visual person as well, because that's important. That's just how you, and you tend to gravitate towards if you're doing something you love, you gravitate towards those industries.
You normally have a couple of strong learning styles.
You do.
Yeah. I'm visual and, well, actually, I'm not sure, coming from visual, auditory, digital, I'm quite a detailed person, but also kinesthetic. And I like clients. That's why it's important for me, I suppose, isn't it, for me to be very careful about the questionnaire that I send to my clients, whether they like, what sort of fabrics they like, if they like suede or leather. There's a difference between suede and leather and things like that. So that's kinesthetic, particular about that.
Yeah. You can definitely pick that up. And there was something you just mentioned there, and I thought, oh, that's a really good point as well. Is
a couple of different learning styles, was it?
Oh, I can't think what it was. It's about questioning people as well. Oh, the multiple different learning styles. Yeah. So I was never very auditory at all, and visual and kinesthetic, and definitely not auditory digital. Don't try and explain anything to me. If it sounds good, I'll buy it. I don't care, but I don't need the details. I just want to know what's in it for me all the time. But auditory was not good. I would not pay attention to what people were talking. I would just go, white noise. Okay, I missed all that until I started having my podcast. So when I started the We Are Women podcast, I had to listen. I really had to listen intently and take notes, and then come back and ask people questions with it. And oh my gosh, I just got so much better at listening. And I did that I always have books going in the car, and I just realised probably not going to finish my books because we're not driving anywhere, but I'll get them out of the car. But that has trained me to be more auditory. So I now don't miss a section of the book. You know, used to go, oh, hang on, I missed all that part, and you blanked out. Whereas I don't now. And through the podcast, you don't miss that because I've trained to be more auditory. So you can train those skills that you haven't.
What about people who take notes as opposed to people who don't take notes?
People who take notes are usually kinesthetic and visual. Yeah. The visual people will take notes and probably never refer to them, but they've got every highlighted colour in the book, highlighting all the areas. And I again, like that, I would take notes out of books. I never have to go back to them. If I went back to them, I'd go, I know it's about halfway through the book, it's on the left-hand side, and I know where I wrote it. Because I can spot that and see things.
It's a visual reference for you.
You're
visualizing where you actually wrote those details.
Yeah. So that's a good way to identify it. But if you don't have to take notes and you just listen, very good auditory.
Actually, that's how I passed a lot of exams, was by visualizing the notes and where I had written those notes and the highlighting, and also visualizing where I did my study. If I was doing the study out in the garden somewhere, I would recall that situation.
Yeah. And so, you know, all of that, and we are all of everything, but we can develop those other skills as well. And you know what, during this lockdown time that was, I'm calling it lockdown now because I think that's coming, is that I am actually reading through my emails that I'm getting properly. I'm looking into the data that's being sent to me. I'm listening to the videos or the training, whereas most of the time I'm being too busy, and if it's not really relevant, doesn't jump out at me straight away, I haven't. And I've actually got more emails sitting in my inbox than I would normally have, because I know I will have time to look at them properly and rather than just deleting. So I think that's something that's probably going to come up for people as well, is to take the time to learn something from somebody, you know, if you can, because we want to make sure that, you know, what we've just been talking about now is just a little part of the sales process. It's and connecting with people, but presenting from stage, you need to be doing this presenting from stage as well, or connecting on a camera. You need to be knowing how you learn, how other people learn, and what language to use, or predicates they call them, is the different types of languages.
Okay.
It's so important.
That's amazing. You've got just such a wealth of knowledge about the sales process. I think the thing that I get out of hearing you speak like that is that it comes down to acknowledging that we're all different, and that's okay, and taking it on board and being able to talk to anybody because we have that that knowledge that you've given us. So thank you, Janine. That was really, really good.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, Barbara. I mean, Valerie. Thanks, Valerie.
I'm still sort of, you know, thinking some of that through. That's wonderful. It's really good.
AD right there. It through.
So Janine, how can people get in touch with you?
They can go to my website, which is janinevosper.com, and it's spelled JANEENVOSPER. And on there, you can actually book in for a complimentary discovery call, business call, or just have a conversation about anything that's bothering you at the moment and wanting to know how to get stuff online, or what, you know, what's holding you up in business and how you can work through this difficult time. I would normally just have a couple of these discovery calls opportunities a week. I've got a little bit more spare time at the moment. I'm happy to, whoever books on can jump on to that and help them out. I was a general manager of a $10 million business for 20 years. You know, I've learned a little bit of stuff, and I think I could
just a little
help.
bit.
Yeah, just a tad. And, you know, to be able to share that with people who are struggling.
That's really generous of you, Janine. Thank you.
Welcome.
So I think that's it from us. So thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Moana. Thank you, Janine. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, ladies. Bye.